I knew in my heart that I could do more, but I felt in my mind that I didn't have what it took. I wasn't smart enough. I didn't have a college education. I didn't have enough money. I didn't have the right contacts, but I felt in my heart I could do more. What was stopping me? The willingness to do what I knew. So I decided to learn. What is it about you that's different than your friends? That you decided, I know I can do more than what I'm doing. I know I can have more. How many of you know that? Raise your hands, please. So you've come here to increase your skill set. Let us say together, skill set. So that you can begin to expand your achievements. See, that's the difference between people who make it and people who don't make it. They don't take the time to do what you've done, to come here, invest the time and energy to develop and sharpen your skill set so you can cut through the obstacles and the stumbling blocks and the failures and the disappointments and the setbacks that will be out there waiting for you. And I can tell you, based upon my own experience, you have a power in you to overcome anything that you are confronted with. I can tell you that there's something about you that no matter what life throws at you, you will overcome it. You and I are cut from the same cloth. We're branches of the same tree. There's something in you that attracted you here, that brought you here. I only attract millionaires or millionaires in training. Some of you right now, some of you hear me with your ears, but there's some of you can feel me in your heart. You can feel me, you understand. I've been there. I've hit a wall. I know what it is to question yourself and ask yourself, am I crazy? Can I do this? I know what it is to doubt yourself.
I blame the manufacturers. I blame my negative relatives. They were always putting me down. I blame my cynical neighbors. They were just selfish, looking out for themselves. Wouldn't loan me any money. I blame the community. I blame the economy. Hey, that's a pretty good list for not doing well, isn't it? I thought it was a good list. I will never forget this one day. Mr. Schoaf was very kind, but he was also very blunt, which was helpful for me. If he hadn't been blunt, I would have missed some things. On this particular day, with a kind of question mark look on his face, he said, Jim, just out of curiosity, tell me how come you haven't done well up until now? Excellent question, right? Well, so I wouldn't look too bad, I decided to go through my list. How I ever had the nerve to do that, I don't know, but I did. I went through the whole list. The government, taxes, prices, everything. He was very patient, and let me go through it all. When I finished, he looked over my list very carefully and said, Mr. Rohn, big problem with your list. You aren't on it. How brilliant. And how true. When I went to work for him a few months later, I learned very quickly to tear up my list of reasons for not looking good and threw it away. And then I got a fresh piece of paper, and I put one word on it. Me. There's a Black Heritage spiritual that says, it's not my mother nor my father, nor my brother nor my sister, but it's me, O Lord, standing in the need of prayer. See, I used to blame everything outside for my lack of progress, until I found the problem was inside. For a big share of my life, I kept looking for the answers to do well outside, and I found out the answers were inside. Success is not something you pursue. Success is something you become. What are you going to do starting today that will make a difference in how your life works out? What are you going to do? See, if you don't do something starting today that will make a difference, guess what? It's going to be the same. And you can guess what the next 5 years are going to be like. Just look at the last 5. The next 5 years will be like the last 5 unless you, Major Key, make all the changes. Now sometimes, for some people it will continue, but sure enough, here's where it usually levels off. If there are no more exams to take, if there's no demand to get out paper and pencil, why read any more books? Now you will just learn by some experience, just getting out there and by doing it wrong and doing it right and stumbling around. You learn some. But can you imagine what would happen if you kept an accelerated learning curve all the rest of your life? Can you imagine what you could learn to do? The skills you could develop? The capacities you could have? So here's what I'm asking you to do. Be that unusual person who keeps up his learning curve. Succeeding in life is not usual. It's unusual. You need to develop some unusual habits to earn the outstanding rewards.
This is not for everyone. This is not for the faint at heart. This is for people who have goals and dreams they want to achieve.
Sometimes we look at pieces in our lives that don't make sense. The key is what we do in our times of pain. Pain will change us. Every painful time, even though you don't like it, it's developing something in you that can only be developed in the tough times.
You have got to change the way you think. It is the whole determining factor of where you go in life. We are all where we are today because we thought ourselves to this position. If you don't like the position, think yourself out of it.
If you want to be an impactful personality, you have to develop certain types of thinking and perceptions that change the way you see yourself and see the world. I call this the spirit of leadership.
Being able to watch something grow very calmly, patiently. I can't go any faster. We do that to our brain. We put a governor on our brain. The second we feel pain, discomfort, suffering, all those words that we hate to say because we're in this happy, peaceful world we live in now, we stop. We slow down. And if you can get through these different barriers and gain 5%, 2%, 3%, that 40% becomes 60. That 60% becomes 70, 80, and 90. And then you'll hopefully one day near 100. That dreamer mentality just would always fuel me. It would just fuel me, man. What if I can be a SEAL, man? Now I run 205 miles. What if I can go? What if I can go? And what if, how would that feel? You have to go into those dark chambers that we often shut off, and you got to open them up.
Book, you tell people to make a list of everything working against them, every real, valid excuse.
Right.
Why do you have them do that?
There's a lot of power in that list. So in that list of who you are, what makes you up, all these other things, it goes back to, once again, accepting. You have to first accept it before you can fix it. A lot of people walk around, oh man, I'm good. I'm good. No, you're not. You have to accept what you're not. You have to, and people don't want to do that. And that's the only way you can fix it. You have to accept it first before you can go on the journey. A lot of folks never even start the journey, man. They never start the journey because they live in this fake life that who they want to be, they act like they are, but they're not because they haven't fixed all this stuff yet. You got to fix this first before we can start our journey in life. So that's why I have them make this list. You fix these problems, now your journey can begin because you no longer care about how people are judging you. When you care more about how someone's judging you, you're going to stay right there. There's no forward momentum. So that's the whole thing about that list.
Nelson Mandela is a particularly special case study in the leadership world because he is universally regarded as a great leader. You can take other personalities, and depending on the nation you go to, we have different opinions about other personalities. But Nelson Mandela, across the world, is universally regarded as a great leader. He was actually the son of a tribal chief. And he was asked one day, how did you learn to be a great leader? And he responded that he would go with his father to tribal meetings. And he remembers two things when his father would meet with other elders. One, they would always sit in a circle. And two, his father was always the last to speak.
The scripture says the spirit of faith is in our words. When you say, I am blessed, I have favor, I'm coming out of debt, angels go to work. Good breaks will find you. The right people will track you down. And you can think positive. You can believe for favor. That's good, but nothing happens till you speak. The miracle is in your mouth. There is healing in your mouth. There is freedom in your mouth. There are new levels in your mouth. If you're fighting an illness, it's easy to talk about the medical report and how bad it looks. I don't think I'll ever get well. When you speak that, you're calling in more sickness, more defeat. You need to change what you're saying. The scripture says, let the weak say, I am strong. It doesn't say, let the weak talk about the weakness. Let the weak call 5 friends and discuss the problem. That's giving life to the negative. Now, I'm not asking you to deny the facts. Just say what God says about you. Your report should be, God is restoring health back into me. The number of my days He will fulfill. My mother wouldn't be here today after being diagnosed with terminal cancer in 1981 if she had not done this. It's not enough to just not say anything negative. You have to be on the offensive. All through the day, I would hear her quoting scriptures. When somebody asked how she was doing, it was never a sad song. It's hard. I don't understand it. I'm tired. Her report was, I am healed. With long life, God will satisfy me. What He started in my life, He's going to finish. She didn't feel healed. She felt weak, but she said, I am strong. The medical report said she was done, but she said, I will live and not die. She got in agreement with God and released the miracle in her mouth. 38 years later, she's still alive and healthy. Are there miracles in your mouth waiting to be released? Joel, when I break this addiction, then I'll tell people I'm free. You have to tell them first. Every day you need to declare, I am free, I am clean, this addiction does not control me. Every time you say, I am free, in the unseen realm, chains are broken. Strongholds are loosed. Freedom starts heading your way. You keep speaking it, and you will become what you're saying. You are prophesying your future. When David faced Goliath, a giant twice his size, it wasn't a coincidence that he looked at him and said, this day I will defeat you and feed your head to the birds of the air. He wasn't just being positive. He wasn't just talking smack. He understood this principle. The miracle was in his mouth. He had to release the victory. What if he would have said, wow, I thought I wanted to face Goliath, but look how big he is. I don't have any armor. I don't feel qualified. I don't think I have a chance. If he would have talked defeat, we wouldn't know who David was. If he would have just thought positive, I believe I can do it. I believe I've got what it takes, he wouldn't have defeated Goliath. He knew he had to speak it. I will defeat you. You may have a giant in your path, a giant of debt, a giant of depression, a giant of sickness. Like David, you need to announce to that giant, I will defeat you. You will not keep me from my destiny. The forces that are for me are greater than the forces that are trying to stop me. The scripture says, if any 2 of you agree, anything you ask according to God's will, it will be done. There's power in agreement. What's interesting is David didn't have anyone to agree with him. His brothers looked down on him, thought he was too small. His father saw him as less than, like he'd never amount to much. King Saul didn't think he had a chance. He even tried to give David his armor so at least it wouldn't be so painful. Nobody was there to encourage David, to say, hey, David, you can do this. We believe in you. You've got what it takes. There are times, like with David, you can't find anyone to agree with you. But I've learned if you'll come into agreement with yourself, if you'll get your heart and mouth in agreement and start speaking victory, declaring that you are well able, that you are blessed, that you will defeat the addiction, then even though others don't agree, because you're in agreement with yourself, you will see giants defeated. You will accomplish dreams that others thought were impossible. Now, don't be discouraged because nobody is cheering you on and nobody sees what you see. Sometimes God puts things in your heart that other people don't understand. Seems too big, too impossible. Instead of encouraging you, they'll do just the opposite. You think you can beat that sickness? I don't know. My grandmother died of the same thing. You still think you're going to have a baby? After all these years, you're kind of getting up there. You really believe you can build that orphanage, write that book, lead your company in sales, move into that nice neighborhood? I just don't see it. The good news is they don't have to see it. You don't need them to agree with you. Come into agreement with yourself. Get your heart and words going in the right direction. Start talking like it's going to happen. You have to say it before you'll see it. When David went out to face Goliath, all the Israeli army and all the Philistine army were watching. Here was this teenager with no military training, no experience, young, small, looked like a boy. In front of all of them, he had the audacity to say with confidence, Goliath, I will defeat you. Some of them made fun, ridiculed. Even Goliath laughed and said, am I a dog that you'd come at me with a stick? Sending this little boy, is that all you've got? The people around you may not see the greatness in you. They'll judge you by the outside, by your size, your experience, your background, your nationality. Don't let them talk you out of what God put in your heart. Do like David, keep speaking the victory in spite of what the naysayers think. Keep declaring your vision in spite of what experts are telling you. They don't know what God put in you. Don't let their negative words keep you from speaking positive, faith-filled words. When we were trying to acquire this place, the former Compact Center, it was like David versus Goliath. The company we were up against was the largest taxpayer in Texas, a huge real estate company. And there were plenty of people that didn't think we had a chance. Not just our critics, but even some of the experts. Deep down, I knew God put this in my heart. So I announced to the congregation that we were going to purchase the Compact Center. Over the next 3 years, we had all kinds of opposition. Plenty of times where it didn't look like it would ever work out. I was tempted to talk about what I saw. Our opponents are so strong. They have more funds. I don't see how this can happen. But I understood this principle. We give life to what we speak. If you start speaking the negative, agreeing with the doubt, talking about how big the problem is, you are giving life to the wrong things. Your words can keep you from your destiny. In the scripture, an angel told a man named Zechariah that his wife was going to have a baby. He was surprised because they were too old to have children. Zechariah said to the angel, are you sure? Look how old we are. The angel said, yes, Zechariah, it will happen. But because you doubted, you will remain silent and not be able to speak until the child is born. That's how powerful words are. God knew if Zechariah went around talking defeat, I don't see how, we're too old, it would have kept the baby from being born. God has put dreams and promises in your spirit that may seem too big, impossible. You don't have the resources, the experience, the connections. Don't do like Zechariah and talk yourself out of the miracle. Get in agreement with God. Dare to declare what He says about you. Maybe you're facing an illness. There's no sign of it getting better. You're right where Zechariah was. How can this happen? The medical report says no way. God has done His part. Now it's up to you.
I did a seminar one weekend up at the ranch up at Clear Lake. Got a lodge up there. Nice setting, high valley, high serenity ranch. For the weekend, Friday evening, Saturday, Sunday, people drove in from around California. I got there late Friday afternoon. Everybody had pretty well already gotten there. I couldn't believe the parking lot. Continentals and Eldorados, Mercedes, Cadillac, unbelievable. Ferrari, one Rolls Royce, unbelievable. I walked in, good-looking crowd about like this, sitting there ready for the weekend seminar. My opening remarks were, ladies and gentlemen, I think the rest of the world would find it strange that we have all come here this weekend to try to figure out how to do better. I think the rest of the world would say, I don't understand. Guy in his Rolls Royce saying, I got to get to the seminar, find out how to get another one of these Rolls Royces. Unbelievable. Anyway, let's be thankful. Here's what locks up the doors and the channels to receive more: cynicism. That locks you away. That prevents you from learning more. Being a cynic about the past and the future, cynic about the marketplace, cynical about people, cynical about the institution, cynical about the setup, cynical about yourself, cynical about your chances. See, that locks away all the chance for stuff to flow your way. So, good advice, I think, today. Start off, be thankful. Here's number 2, listen well. That's going to be a challenge today. I understand that. It seems like most of, our life is still going on outside these 4 walls, right? Most of our life seems like it's all, continuing out there. Family and business and associates, market, economy, and whatever else is happening in the midst of your life. And to sort of, pull your attention from what's going on out there and put it in here for just a few hours, I know, a challenge. But do the best you can. Listen well. Here's the last one. Take good notes. Be a good student today. Take some good notes. I've not come to entertain you, as you can tell by my opening joke, right? I would not make it in Las Vegas. So we don't have a dog and pony show today. No entertainment. But I do have some ideas. Take some good notes. Somebody showed me the other day notes they took about 21 years ago, attending one of my seminars out in Los Angeles. He said, I still use these notes I took 21 years ago to help me in my business relationship with my family. So I'd like to have these notes take they'd come that value. Then it would be worth me making the investment. Come and spend a portion of my lifetime, my energy. And I want this investment I'm making here today to pay off. And one of the ways to pay off me, for you to take good notes and then go away and use whatever makes sense. Because what I feast on, coming back around, is the story out of this audience today. Sure enough, 6 weeks from now, 6 months from now, 6 years from now, somebody's going to, by phone, by letter, by personal contact, walk up to me and say, the things you shared that day got me thinking. And I started making some changes. And let me tell you what's happened to my business. Let me tell you what's happened to my sales career. Let me tell you what's happened to my relationship with my family. See, that'll make it worth me. Not the money, the return. Something you can't buy with money.
Write that down. It's necessary as you look at your goals and your dreams, it's necessary that you have a strategy and a game plan to change the story that you believe about yourself. And that's an ongoing process. I've discovered, and many people have, that what we do, what we accomplish, what we produce is a result of the story we believe about ourselves. My favorite book says, be ye not conformed to this world, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. And so as I began to work on myself, I realized that I'm getting out of one story and stepping into another story. As I become aware of some things, there's still some things I'm not aware of. So I'm still growing, I'm still developing. I'm like the lady who said, Lord, I ain't what I want to be, ain't what I'm going to be, but thank God I sure ain't what I was. But I realized that you have to work on yourself on a regular basis, and write this down, for mental mindset. For mental mindset and stamina. Because things are going to happen to you. I believe that the reason that most people go to their graves with their talents and abilities and skills in them is because of the fact, number one, many are like me. They didn't know that they didn't know and thought they knew. I thought I knew myself, and I really didn't know myself as well as I thought. I've discovered that sometimes people can take you to a place within yourself that you can't go by yourself. The other reason is I was afraid. I never worked for a major corporation. I wanted to speak for corporations. I was afraid I would be exposed because I don't have a college education. I felt inferior because of the fact that I don't have a college education. I allowed that level of fear of failure to stop me. And because I never had any experience in it, I assumed that I could not do it. I was paralyzing myself by believing and assuming the limited part of myself as opposed to believing that I had something special. You have something special. There's something you want to do. Because you don't know how to do it doesn't mean that you can't learn. I like something that I heard. You don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great. Repeat after me, please. Leap and grow your wings on the way down.
What did I become? What changed with me where things changed? I want you to write this down. I read a book called Selling the Dream by a guy named Guy Kawasaki about that same time. Guy Kawasaki was the guy that sort of marketed Macintosh for Apple. Steve Wozniak's become a pretty good buddy of mine because I had him come speak to my coaching group. So I'm very, very familiar with what made Apple work. Only the greatest company in the history of mankind, right? Or most influential anyway. I'm very familiar with what made that company work. And what made it work is they had unbelievable technical people, but they had a dude that led that company who was a crazy man, like I'm a crazy man, named Steve Jobs. And Steve Jobs didn't have a high IQ. He wasn't an overly technical human being. He was an intense, psycho, crazy, and here's what he was great at doing. He was a great storyteller. If you're going to lead your company, if you're going to take it to the next level, you and your team had best be getting better at telling stories that move people. You're too much about the facts. You're too much about your scripts. You're too much about your presentation. You might even be too much about running numbers. You got to be able to tell a story that grips people emotionally, that shifts them, to create a movement. Are you with me on that? Say yes. You're like, what's that got to do with roofing and all this other stuff? It has everything to do with it. Everything to do with it is a story you tell and how you frame things that gets me to not only participate, but close now and refer you to people. So you think, well, that doesn't matter. We're doing well. You can always do better at this. Write this down. The greatest leaders are evangelical about their cause. They are cause-oriented leaders. They find a way to take an average, ordinary product and somehow build a movement and a cause around it by becoming evangelical about their cause. Evangelical about the money your people might be able to make, or evangelical about the difference you and your company make for families. To the extent you get good at becoming an evangelical leader is the extent that you'll be successful. I'll submit this to you because it's mainly men in here. To the extent that you'll be a great father, great leader of your home and your family, is to the extent that you can become evangelical about the cause and the mission your family's on. I'm constantly telling my children, we're going to do something awesome. Our family's special. Since my son was a little boy, every night he go to bed, you're a leader, you're a gladiator, you're the greatest of all time, Max. We're going to do something great as a family. I tell my daughter that all the time, right? Why? No one told me that crap when I was growing up. I had an alcoholic dad. No one told me. I just hope he came home and didn't get mad. So are you evangelical about your life, about your cause, when people get around you? Maybe you're not loud. I'm not. Just so you know, when I walk off this stage, I'm the most introverted person in this room. Ask anybody who knows me. If I'm at a party, I don't talk. I'm quiet. If we were at the mall, brother, and we went to high school together, and I saw you, I'd love to connect, but I'm so quiet and introverted, I'd duck into a store to hide so we don't have to connect. But I had to learn to be a storyteller. I had to learn to transfer energy, to express myself. And I'm not capable of talking about crap I don't believe. I wasn't raised that way. But if you get me believing it, you get me talking about my faith, my family, any New England sports team, and my companies, I will move you. I will move you emotionally because I'm an evangelist about my cause. So what do those leaders have in common? If we go back, look at there. What does Steve Jobs, Oprah Winfrey, my dumbass, Elon Musk, I use Rachel Hollis, and sweet Kris Jenner, who's my neighbor, what do we all have in common? How about this group? Andy Frisella. I purposely put him next to Mother Teresa because I think that's hilarious, right? If you know Andy, he's my business partner in one of my companies. Mark Zuckerberg, and this ain't a political statement. I don't like anything Facebook does. I just have it there for that reason. MLK, who's my hero. Dwayne Johnson, not real happy with him lately either. And Martha Stewart. What do all those people have in common? In different ways, they become evangelical about their mission and their cause and their company. And that will be the separator for you. You want to build a great company, a great life, a great family, great wealth? I'm evangelical about all of it, all the time. That's a very specific word, by the way, evangelical. What do all they have in common? You got that. What's an evangelist do? A person who seeks to convert others, especially by public preaching, a zealous advocate of a cause. That's what an evangelist does. You must speak about these things, write about these things, post on your social media about it. When your people get around you, it's infectious and repetitive, and you don't tire of saying it over and over. I like when my guys roll their eyes at me. Here he goes again. This is the mission we're on. This is what we're going to do this year. And they're rolling their eyes, and I'm just putting it in their consciousness again and again and again because I'm relentless about it. Amen? Yes, say yes. So, why? Because our obsessions become our possession.
It is not in your current situation or your current paycheck. And if you've been living like that, you have then restricted yourself to a commonality that is really not yours. Because what really God got for you is really in your imagination. Now, since there's a lot of church folk in here, let me tie that to a scripture, because this one you really start to affect black folks. See, y'all don't really believe nothing till you tie it to some type of church thing. So let's just go on and do that. And once again, before I start this, I am not a pastor or a preacher, and I can talk for a very small amount of time without cussing. So it's really, I know about the time limit. I'm going to try to end my speech before I hit that point because I want to stay dignified. This is about men of Omega, so I'm going to stay dignified. There is a script that Albert Einstein took. It's like book C, top-selling motivation ever book. See, everything comes from Bible. You don't need magic, power, positive, how to wrote it, when it's, well, I've read them all. All of that information is in Proverbs, all of it. But let me give you this script. You've all heard, right? Faith is substance things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen.
I need a raise. I deserve a raise, but I have to admit I'm afraid to ask for one, not only because of what the boss might say, but because of what the people in the office will say too. They might think I'm kissing up or trying to be better than them, you know?
Fear of what other people may think or say about you often blocks opportunities. The action cure is to first make sure that what you plan to do is right and justified, and if you feel sure it is, then go ahead with it. Don't get hung up on what other people might think. No one ever does anything worthwhile for which he or she is not criticized somewhere along the road.
These are just a few examples, but the procedure to cure fear and win confidence can be summed up in 2 stages. First, isolate your fear. Pin it down. Determine exactly what you're afraid of. Second, take action. There is some kind of action that will cure any and every kind of fear. Now remember this, action is more than just a cure for fear. Action is a tool for success. Action is a confidence builder and a self-belief builder. Action, making things happen, is what separates a dreamer from a doer. Now, it's good to dream. Many good and useful ideas come from dreaming, but ideas without action are like a car without an engine. In other words, they're useless. Our minds generate lots of ideas every day, ideas about different things. It will help your success plan if you get in the habit of capturing those ideas when they happen. Carry around a notebook or some small cards so you can make a note of your ideas and keep those ideas in an active, accessible file. That can be anything from a fancy cabinet to a shoebox, but make sure they're in a place where you can easily get to them and look at them frequently. Review your ideas and cull out the ones that don't have any value, but the ones that look feasible, hang on to them, research them, read everything you can that pertains to your idea, talk it over with your friends, your family, fellow workers, polish your ideas, think and dream about them, and then act on them. Remember, excellent ideas alone are not enough. A fair idea developed and acted upon is 100% better than a great idea that dies because it isn't followed up.
Remember the first experiment in your people laboratory? We suggested that you pick 2 successful people and 2 unsuccessful people and see how the attributes that David Schwartz describes fit those individuals. Well, think about that experiment again and see how this model applies. People tend to fall into 2 general categories. Successful people are active. They take action, get things done, follow through on ideas and plans. Unsuccessful people tend to be more passive. They are don'ters. They postpone doing things until they can prove to themselves that they shouldn't do them or can't do them anyway. For purposes of this example, we'll call the active person Mr. A and the passive person Mr. P. Now let's examine some typical Mr. A and Mr. P behaviors. In countless ways, large and small, the differences between Mr. A and Mr. P show through. An employee at work does a particularly good job on a tough assignment, and Mr. A decides to write him a note to congratulate him on his achievement. As soon as he makes that decision, Mr. A sits down, writes the note, and has it delivered. Mr. P decides to write a note too, but he has some other things to do right now, so he doesn't get to it right away. And then he forgets for a day or two, and the note, in fact, never gets written. Mr. A, at the age of 45, decides he wants to go into a new line of work. He researches the field he's interested in, decides on a course of action by formulating a plan for success, and he follows through, step by step. In 2 years, he's on a new career course, and he's glad he made the change. Mr. P, at the same age, also gets the idea that he'd like to try something new, but he sits down and thinks it over and decides that it's better not to rock the boat at his age, because if he failed, he'd be too old to make a comeback. Mr. A gets the things done that he wants to do, and as a byproduct, he gains confidence. He gets a feeling of inner security, self-reliance, and he also earns more income. Mr. P is afraid to act. He doesn't do the things that he wants to do. He limits his possibilities by convincing himself of the folly of action. As byproducts, he loses confidence in himself, becomes negative about life, and he lives in mediocrity.
There is a saying that says, experience is priceless. It's a shame you have to pay for it with your youth. To become experienced, it's going to cost you your entire youth. The only way to get experience, you got to get old. I know you don't want to, but old is the goal. I tell people all the time, kids come up and they go, man, Mr. Harvey, you old. Old is the goal. See, if you stop getting old, the day you stop getting old, you're gonna die. You're gonna die. It's over. It's over for you. See, I like getting old, because that means I'm still here. So, it's so many things to that question, but there is a balance. You have to have a good time, you have to do your work. You know, and then parents, let me tell you this, it's not just schoolwork. Kids can't just do schoolwork. You gotta give them some time to enjoy themselves. You know, you gotta give them time to be a kid. You know, you gotta let them go through something. I know, be focused, be focused, be focused, be focused, be focused, focus, 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 focus. Hey man, they young. They just want to go outside. They want to do something fun. Now, fun over here is way different from fun in the United States. So I don't know what that is, but They just want to have fun. You got to create a balance. So like with all my kids, my youngest child now is 22 years old. So I don't have to watch them. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I still watch them. Yes, but they're not. They can all drive. They all got cars. They all have their own apartment. They're independent. They all have jobs. I'm very fortunate. All of my children have degrees. You know, I put 7 kids through college. You know why? Because I flunked out of school. I flunked out of school. I failed in school. I was expelled from school and couldn't go back. I was not a good student. And so I didn't want my children to have to suffer the way I suffered with no education. See, and then sometimes my kids would go, well, Dad, look how your life turned out. You didn't have an education, and look at your life. Yeah, but you ain't got no jokes. See, my life turned out okay because God had given me this incredible gift. I have the ability to make people I've never met laugh. So I have a gift. You don't have this gift. You need education. You got to get educated. So all of my children have gone to college, and that's been a very proud thing for me. But I had to learn to let them have fun too. So, you know, we go on family vacations and things like that. And we try to sit around and have family time. You know, we try to eat some meals together. Like I'll have 1, 2 of them here with me. My son's with me all the time. I don't know where my daughter is. She's with their mama. I don't know. My son, he's gonna come with his father because he loves me. Roderick Stephen Harvey Jr., I named him after me. That was my firstborn son. I have 3 sons. And he's a very good son. A lot of beautiful women over here, but he knows we don't do nothing over here. We going home. The Muslim men over here, they're not playing. They're not playing. There's no game with them. These Muslim men over here, they love their daughters. Don't play. So we going home. We'll go somewhere else. We're not here. Don't look. This is a real simple answer. To create the balance, you just got to take some time out to do some stuff you enjoy doing. Now look, my enjoyment is probably very different from yours. So don't do what Steve do. My enjoyment is very different. But you have to find the things that you like. You got beautiful beaches here, go to the beach. Do something other than work. Because man, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. You cannot work all the time. You have to do something for enjoyment. You got to, man. Why are you making money? Go buy yourself your favorite food and go eat it on the beach. Go get yourself, just sit down somewhere. You can't, I have to remember where I am, so yeah, just buy yourself something to eat and sit on the beach. Just do that. Don't be trying to find a cigar and all that, that ain't gonna happen. Not here. I know I tried. But you know, that's another thing, you know, because I'm a cigar guy, and when I come here, that's not the case. But I'm fine, so I learned how to deal with it. We have laws. You have to be respectful of people's culture, country, so it's fine.